Hi everyone, it's Alan from ScootersScooters.mov. I'm here today in sunny Brisbane and I'm with Ben from Scooters, Scooters and Scooter Life. And Ben's the general manager of the whole operation. And that's a bit different from where we've been because we've been travelling around Australia talking to some dealer principals and they all own the business, but Ben is actually the general manager and he manages the day-to-day operations here. So first of all, I'd like to welcome Ben to Scooter Sales. How you going?
Very good, mate.
That's good. Look, first of all, tell me what got you into the world of scooters.
With scooters, what we might talk about is firstly how the business was involved, the Scooter Life business, and then I'll sort of speak more personally about myself. Scooter Life is directed by a man by the name of Joe. He's been in the industry since 1995, so the 15 years he's really been pioneering what the industry is today. Back in 1995, we were talking some pretty small numbers. We're talking about 4 Vespers a year were sold. So it's come a long way since those early days. In 1998, the first scooter-only shop was set up. Now, one of the main things with that scooter-only shop idea was that Honda, for the first time, had been brought out from a Honda dealership and was sold in a non-Honda dealership. And that's really paved the way for brands that you see today being outside of their main dealership structure. In 1998, we're talking some bigger numbers. We might have been talking about 8 scooters a month. So we're still talking very small numbers. From there, we've seen a fair bit of growth. Obviously, with the city, Brisbane now is becoming quite a large city, much more metropolitan. We've seen a fair bit of growth over the last few years. We've seen a bit of a slowdown recently. But that's sort of where the scooters came from, and the whole idea, just basically developing with the city, dealing with its issues of congestion and just petrol prices and all that sort of stuff going up. Now, me personally, I'd been in a number of industries prior to moving to this business. I've been involved with the business for about 5 years now, and starting off obviously at a salesman level and moving through, which has been an interesting and a very fun progression. The other thing with me personally and how I got involved with scooters is prior to moving into the business, I actually bought a scooter from Joe and I got to know him, and the main driver for my scooter purchase was because I needed low cost transport, and at that stage I was going to TAFE. And I found that it was such a great mode of transport. I could get around town cheaply, it would carry all the gear I needed, and I had a whole lot of fun when I did it. I decided to go back and talk to Joe about a job. And at that stage, they were able to accommodate me in that, and yeah, the rest is history.
Tell me about the brands you stock. Do you think brands are important? The brands that you actually stock are important?
Hugely. I think the biggest thing with brands is people might associate that if you buy a brand, it's going to be more expensive. Well, when you buy a scooter, you don't just buy a scooter, you buy the backup of that scooter as well. So if you buy something Piaggio, Vespa, Gilera, you've got something that's going to be there for a long time. You've got something that's always going to be there if you've ever got a problem. And that's why we stock the brands we do. Now we do obviously Piaggio, Vespa, Gilera, Kimco, Sim and Aprilia. So we've got a very good scope of brands, and we've worked very closely with these brands for a number of years. So our business relationships are incredibly good. Everyone, including ourselves, obviously is very determined to maintaining our customer satisfaction, and that's primarily because of the brands that we've got.
Yeah. No, fantastic. So tell me, I'm the first time scooter rider and I'm brand new and I'm looking for my first scooter. Give me one good bit of advice as a first timer walking in, fresh to scooters.
Basically, stick with those brands. Those brands are going to have a support network that's going to support you. That's probably the single most important thing. With a bit more history of the Brisbane region, over the years we've seen scooter shops come and go, 16 of them in fact is the latest tally. One thing that we support are the big brands. Now those brands are always going to be around, we're always going to be here to support them, and that's probably the primary thing that we recommend to people. Don't buy in a false economy, spend a couple $100 less. If that company is no longer around to service you, then it's going to be an expensive bike. So that's probably the biggest thing.
Okay, so stick with reputable brands. Yeah, okay, good bit of advice. Give me a recommendation about servicing. You've got quite a big service department here, probably one of the biggest in Australia. Give me a tip on servicing your scooter.
Servicing is incredibly important. Without that servicing facility, we just wouldn't have the reliability of the bikes that we have. There's a reason why manufacturers have a servicing interval, and it's incredibly important to adhere to that. Obviously, the main thing is you keep your warranty on a new scooter, but that's only for a short term. Most cases 2 years. One thing, if you keep your bike maintained, you're going to get year in, year out of reliable service from that bike, and that's important because at the end of the day, if you spend the money and you spend good money on a scooter, the last thing you want it to do is be unreliable. So servicing is incredibly important. Once again, false economy, last thing you want to do is save $20. Maybe you could get something that's not a full job. Here we go through, we service everything from top to toe, and the main thing we focus on as well is the transmission, because without that you won't going anywhere.
Yeah, certainly. So we've talked about a bit about the business and its growth over the years and so forth and where it's come from. What do you think about scooters going forward? If I use Julia's term, is scooters moving forward? Where do you see the scooter industry and I suppose scooter sales moving?
We've seen probably in the last 18 months some relatively harder times, not harder times, but just a retraction in the market from the lofty heights of sort of 2007, early 2008. We have ourselves accommodated this by being progressive, and we had 3 retail outlets, we've shut 2, we're back to 1. Probably the exciting thing about that is what we're going to do is we're going to refocus very much on that personal service, something that we've always prized ourselves on. We've still got the big infrastructure for the servicing department, so although the sales has retracted, our service department is still going strong, and that's the thing that once again keeps the customers we've had, keeps them happy and on the road. What we're going to see for scooters, we're going to see the strengthening of all those brands that we talked about, the big brands, and that's because people vote with their feet. You know, if you buy something that's a sub-quality bike, you won't buy that brand again. You stick with a brand that's a good quality bike, and we're going to see strength in that. What we'd like to see is we'd like to see a really united sort of stand in the scooter industry. We're only a relatively small industry. You know, the push bike market's 100 times bigger than what we are, but what we'd like to see is some growth. We'd also like to see eventually a lobby group. There is that in place, but we'd like to see it grow and have some real input. I sit on the MTA panel with part of the QMID, and that basically has a voice for scooters within the industry in Queensland, and that's important. We need to be out there. We need to be talking to people who actually liaise with Parliament or make the rules and all that sort of stuff, and that's important. We need to be there, otherwise we'll be forgotten because we're so small. In saying that, as our cities grow bigger, we need to go down this road. We need to look at personal transport other than the car. It's just not going to happen. You know, Brisbane especially has grown so much in recent times, and a lot of those growing pains have been accommodated by people switching to more personal transport like scooters and motorcycles.
Okay, Ben, thanks for that. Now, it's come to the time in the interview that everyone loves, and that's giving your business a bit of a shameless plug. So tell us a bit about where you're located and why people should buy a scooter from ScootersScooters, Scooter Life.
No worries at all.
We're located at 438 Wickham Street, so we're right in the centre of town, obviously able to service north and south sides as well as the central area. We're down near the Valley Pool, so for those who are familiar, it's quite easy to find us. If you are unsure and you're coming down Wickham Street, just look for the big scooter girl on the roof. Why would someone come and buy from us? Basically from experience. We're able to provide, as I said before, all those big brands, but the important thing is we've been in the industry for a number of years now. That gives us a huge amount of knowledge, front end and back end in the service and workshop area, that we're always able to service your needs. The other thing is with our range and all our brands, we have about 56 scooters to choose from. So there's going to be something that's going to suit you.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. So Scooters is the front end of the business, the sales end of the business. Scooter Life is the service side, isn't it?
And then the spare parts.
Both in the same area, 438 Wickham Street, Fortitude Valley, so right in the centre of town, guys. So thank you for spending some time with us today, Ben.
My pleasure, Al.
Yep. Well, that's it. That's Ben from Scooter Life, Scooters, and that's another one in our series of interviews across Australia of the dealers that are selling scooters out there. So We thank you once again for joining us on ScootersSales.com.au, and we'll see you next time.